Hey everybody, it is Brandon Foster, author of Confident AF, Unleash Your Inner Badass. And y'all, today I'm nervous. I just had to be honest about this. This is the first time I've done a testimonial on Born to Dominate. For those of you who don't even know what Born to Dominate is, you probably have heard of Born to Slay. Born to Slay, where we have a very simple aim of increase sales, higher level clients, breakthrough opportunities without reinventing the wheel or doing more in your business. Is all about grace and faith as the business owner to unlock those practical pieces by changing how you view and believe about God's goodness and grace and co-creation and internal certainty in ways you've never experienced it before. It's all about working on you. Born to Dominate came from a deep, heartfelt desire of mine of seeing the transformation inside of those in Born to Slay, and really in my own personal life that never seems to end. What would happen, God, if you were able to grace me with wisdom and knowledge to teach agency owners, online business owners, other people how to change their entire team and how the team thought about themselves? If the team had co creation, and I'm getting a little bit into the weeds a little bit about the container, but just to give you all frame of reference, it's like inside of Born to Slay, everyone comes up with core beliefs. No matter how life looks like, situations, circumstances, KPIs, there's beliefs you have about God's goodness, grace, and love that never changes to keep you in a faith-based perspective, believing what you can't see yet. Those core beliefs turn into core values for your company, where you are changing how your entire team thinks and views about the industry, about marketing, about sales, all those kinds of pieces. And then you have, your faith statement inside of Born to Slay, which is, what have you decided is what you're going to have faith to believe about how God shows up in your life and your business? That is basically your purpose, the mission of why you are living and servicing others through your business. That faith statement becomes your mission statement from your company. So that gives you all a little bit of an idea of my desire from Born to Dominate. But without further ado, let me introduce to you all Tiffany from DDP Travel, who was one of the first people to go through Born to Dominate. Hi, Tiffy Boo.
Hi there.
First of all, I have to just say thank you. Thank you for trusting me to uh, bless you with my gifts and my talents in a container where I've consistently been on my own edge of growth. And I cannot lie, there was definitely parts of when I was doing Born to Dominate where I fell behind and had overcommitted and turning out modules because I was so far at my edge. And I'm so grateful that you got to really experience, basically version 1.0 of Born to Dominate, because, I never stopped creating. And you've gotten to see some pieces of, I think, Born to Dominate 2.0 at this point, and definitely Born to Slay 3.0, because, I just love pouring into people that are inside of my mindset masterminds. But why don't you tell everybody why you decided to do Born to Dominate after doing Born to Slay? Just tell us why.
Well, and Born to Slay, it's definitely a reflection on the individual. And Born to Dominate, when I learned a little bit more about that, it's more of the stepping into a leadership role to help lead a team, to help grow a team. And as an agency owner, that is something that was important to me, because the changes Born to Slay made in my business life and my personal life were huge, and wanting to make sure that I could learn how to help my team with these same challenges, if you will. I'm not saying we do as a deep a dive as Born to Slay, but helping me to overcome some of their afraid to be seen things on social media, or afraid that they don't know enough to help a client. Being able to really figure out how, as a leader, I can help them, which in turn helps not just them, but the whole team and myself and the business and their clients. So learning about that and realizing that I could step into that and be a stronger leader for them was what really kind of drew me to continuing on to the next program.
I love that. And once you actually were inside of Born to Dominate and, behind the curtain, behind the scenes, really started to experience the program in the container, how was it different from Born to Slay? And what surprised you about Born to Dominate?
Well, Born to Dominate is self-paced and you don't have like the weekly check-in. So you really are a leader. So you have to do it, which is not a bad thing. It helps you to realize this is on me. I have to do this. But it really did focus on the bigger picture. Like I feel Born to Slay is more of a spotlight on you, whereas Born to Dominate comes out and it gives you this broader picture of how you affect your team, how your team affects you, how it all affects your clients, and really helping you drill down on some of the things that will give you direction, give the team direction, and move you forward and give you the, I don't want to say the authority, but to remind you that you have the authority to direct these things in your business, which is huge because a lot of times you feel like, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And this is like, no, you should. This is what you need to be doing. You need the core values. You need the mission statement. It needs to go out to your team. You need to know what those are for your team. What is your team's core values? If they don't match, then there's going to be an oil and water kind of thing there. And maybe that's not the right team member. And realizing that that's okay. And you can say, thank you, but I wish you well. So really being able to step into that role and have those reiterated for you in a loving and kind way that builds onto what you've already learned in Born to Slay. It's a stacking stone, and it helps you go, okay, I can see where what I did in Born to Slay translates into this for me to help my team do this. I think that was huge.
Yeah, I love that. Y'all, just like Born to Slay was built from my own frustrations and challenges and personal growth and wrestling with ideas with God and scripture and science and business, so was Born to Dominate, y'all. I remember when I was deeply frustrated because I had not done any licensing for my team and charge any licensing or anything for tools and resources. And I decided I was going to charge them, I think it was $35 a month. Like, it was ridiculous. And I lost 8 or 10 people besides 2. And then I remember when our sales were decent and I was happy with sales and I was already a mindset expert of Wanderlust Campus. And I remember feeling a little bit like an imposter because not everybody on my team was showing up to market. And I remember my ego saying, but it's okay if they're not marketing because I'm a mindset expert and I will shift their mindset. I will shift their perspective. I will change how they think and how they believe. And what I realized was what you just reiterated is there has to be a willingness, and I didn't realize how important it was to make sure your team has a willingness to shift how they think and perceive things and how they believe about themselves, how they believe about sales, believe about online marketing, like believe about every single aspect, and how that really was the key to unlocking all the practical pieces. Because one of the things that I realized, and I'm getting to my question, I promise, we're just taking a little bit of detour, but one of the things I realized after doing a survey with a lot of high level people in the travel industry, and I've worked with other people that aren't in the travel industry. So if you're not in travel, this applies to your business too, I promise, is this idea that we need to change our training program over and over and over again, and that we're not teaching them all the practical tools and resources. And obviously you got to teach the practical to your team, right? That's really, really important. But what I realized from Born to Slay and from my early partnership with Wanderlust Campus is that practical doesn't mean anything if you can't help people overcome their fears and their belief system, preventing them from taking action, preventing them from feeling safe to receive success. You know, time is a big piece that people get hung up on. I don't have enough time. Lifing, situations, circumstances, all those pieces. My question, now we're getting to the question, is how is this different from what, because you're someone who's been to so many industry conferences, you've seen so many practical tools and resources, and I really haven't done a lot of practical tools and resources in the industry, so I can't speak on this. But I know it's different, and I know it matters, and that's just what God's put on my heart. But as someone who has done tons of practical training and resources and has been to conferences about leadership and team this and team that, how is Born to Dominate unique and different in the industries?
Well, I mean, I'm just like everybody else. You know, you go to the conferences, you take all the notes, you're like, this is fantastic, this is great. And then you come home and then life happens. And 6 months later, you're like, you know, I still have those notes and I did nothing with it. And now you're like, well, I haven't done anything in 6 months, so not sure it's going to change anything now. But when you go through Born to Dominate, it's not looking at just, I mean, yes, you mentioned practical pieces, but it's more of you intuitively knowing whether or not your team is the right team and if they're doing the right things. Because everybody's been there. They have that person where you're like, maybe not. It's a not. You know it's a not. But you moved ahead with it anyways. And this is helping you go. If it's a not, don't try to make it an okay. This is if they don't match with where you want to go with your business, don't go into business with them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things to where you have to listen to your intuition, but you also have to walk through the process of what kind of leader am I going to be? What do I want this to be? Where do I want to go? And how do I want to get there? You know, do I want to get there fast, or do I want to get there when I'm meant to get there, but I have an amazing team who loves and trusts me because I love and trust them. And you're looking to, how can I help my team have the business they want, rather than, this is the business I want, how many team members do I have to have? You say many times in there about, you know, that you've met agency owners who have hundreds of team members and they don't even know their names. You know, is that the agency that you want? Or do you want the agency where you have a team, you know their family, you know their kids, and you know that, you know, Sarah over here is always challenged with time. So you can help her with that issue. Remember, all you need to do is this, this, and this when she gets overwhelmed. Then I don't have any time. I don't have any time. So, I mean, having that to be able to help them do what they say they want, where they may have some, you know, blocks themselves, and you being in tune enough, because that's the team you want, to say, let me help you. Let me remind you of some things.
I love that. What are your 3 most valuable takeaways from Born to Dominate? Things that really have stuck with you that you're like, wow, this is gold, and this really matters. What were some of those things?
Well, co-creation does not change. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Even when you think, okay, I've got this, I'm moving forward, you still need it. You still need to rely on the faith and the trust, and understanding the buck stops with you. And if you don't hold yourself accountable, you can't hold your team accountable. And if you aren't doing what you're asking of your team, then you are showing and telling them it's okay that they not do the same thing. So you have to represent what you want. And then the thing is you're not going to be perfect. Your training's not going to be perfect. Your posts are not going to be nothing is going to be perfect, and it's absolutely okay. Good enough is good enough. And if you screw up somewhere, then you acknowledge it. That's the first thing you have to do, is be transparent, acknowledge it, and move on. You can't harbor hard feelings about something you screwed up or something your team member screwed up. You have to let it go and move on. You have to give grace. Just as much as you receive it, you have to give it. And that builds a stronger team, because rather than somebody feeling like they've been beat down because they screwed up, they do feel empowered to say, okay, I screwed up, but I fixed it and everything's okay.
Yeah, you're talking about grace and leadership. How do you display grace to your team so that they have permission to make a mistake and learn from it without fear of judgment, without fear of repercussion, to really give them a safety to grow, which is what you want as a leader. And then also grace as a leader, which is realizing that your training doesn't have to be perfect for people to thrive. You don't have to know everything to be blessed. You get to make a mistake as a leader in your leadership, and God will still bless it. Good things will still happen. There is no punishment. There is no sacrifice. The wheels don't have to fall off. I think is huge, because a lot of people and leaders, and I've fallen prey to this too, you either blame yourself for being a horrible leader, or your team and put it all on them. And if you blame your team, you're not taking responsibility, and you just recreate the cycle, because you just hire more people and then you blame them too. So you're not really fixing, and shifting who you are, which is the leader that allows people to rise. And if you blame yourself, then what happens is your team will blame you, and they will take it out on you. And I think that's so interesting, because a team can completely be a mirror. What did you notice in terms of how I've grown and changed in my approach from Born to Slay and Born to Dominate, seeing the difference and how I've shown. I'm nervous to ask this question, but not put it on my heart. So how has my approach and what you found in Born to Slay and Born to Dominate shown my own growth and my own change, and how has that impacted your business?
Well, I will say, Born to Slay, when I started that was not the 3.0 that you have now, but it was very much God and universe. You not wanting to offend anyone by being too religious. Born to Dominate, and watching you grow, because honestly, that's what has happened, is we've all grown in this last container. You finishing the program, us having the calls that will be part of the program, and just watching you come to terms with, I am okay with my faith, and I'm okay with the people who are not okay with it and not wanting to be a part of the project. And I think, or the program, I think that that has helped me to step into the same thing by saying, I co-create. I do have good, a strong faith. I do have a great relationship. I rely on God. If my agent comes to me and says, I screwed this up, the first thing I'm going to do is not go, holy crap, what did you do that? But it's going to be, okay, God, how is the best way to handle this? Can it be fixed? What do they need from me? How can I support them? Rather than the reaction. And just having that, to take pause. I mean, everybody tells you, okay, stop, think about it before you say anything. But to not just do that, but to stop and go, okay, God, how can I best use this to help them see that it's okay? Mistakes happen, we'll fix it. They're not going to be shamed or anything of that nature. But watching you give grace to yourself after, anybody who knows you after 2024 and your word of the year, and having to go through the challenges that you and Dustin went through. All of those things, watching you do that and have you come and be transparent that even I fall into this, situation where I question things. I don't, and knowing that it's everybody, it's a challenge, it's a walk, and it's okay. And you learn from it, and learning from you as you've walked through this, and as I've started to walk through this, and growing into the leader that Born to Dominate is trying to help you become, has been huge in that. And you have changed more into I rely on God. I rely on faith. I'm going to give you biblical principles that will show you where this comes from. And so you can then lean onto those. I mean, because a lot of times people are like, well, yeah, he's good, he's great, he's got this information, but you give us the foundation of, you can lean on this if you don't want to lean on what I'm telling you. And I think that's huge. That's been a great help too, so that you can always, whether you have a scripture put up somewhere, or you have one that you remind yourself of. Sometimes I have them set up as a reminder that pop up on my phone every few days. If I'm going through something or I'm working through something, as a reminder that it's okay, it's all going to work out for the good, this is the purpose, and all of those things. And having you make that transition in Born to Dominate has been so helpful and encouraging for me.
I love that. I'm glad it's been encouraging to you. If y'all want to know the full story of the grace year, I think I've talked about it in other places, but I'm sure y'all will be hearing more about that, because behind the scenes, I'm up-leveling some exciting things behind the scenes that I'm not ready to reveal yet. And there will be more of those pieces that one thing I love about Born to Dominate and Born to Slay is I share things. I don't bleed on people. I've done that in the past, so I'm very careful not to bleed on people. And I do offer some vulnerability that I don't offer online to people inside of my mastermind, because I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is they see the outside results and they think it didn't come with any tears or doubts or fears or worries or whatever have you. And after learning things, and like my fall from grace in 2024, sharing that, it comes from a place of, one, not wanting anybody to go through that again. And number two, because you all have invested the time, money, resources, and the trust, I feel like I can return the blessing of being a little bit more vulnerable with you all to share in a place that I'm not going to share online with everybody. And so I appreciate that gave you a tremendous sense of encouragement, because I always tell y'all, I don't want you to go through what I went through. I don't want, if I had a 3rd-degree burn on the stove, I don't want you to have a 3rd-degree burn to realize that the stove is hot. Okay. I want to do whatever I can through God's grace to prevent that. What would you say to anybody who is considering this next step, whether they have done Born to Slay, or maybe even if they haven't done Born to Slay? What would you just say to them if they're trying to wrap their head around what this actually is and if it's right for them?
Well, I think anybody who's looking to grow their business, be a leader, anyone who wants to advance in their skills, this is definitely the next stop. And I mean, even if they're like, okay, well, maybe I don't want a team, you're still going to be leading something, whether it's your family, whether it's, a club, something. You will be, if you're a leader, you're going to have that. And having the understanding of how you can project the information and help the people, because sometimes you think, I just don't have somebody, they're just not paying attention, they're just not engaged, they just don't want to do this, when in fact they really do. But you have to go a little bit deeper than just what you're seeing, because they have mental blocks too. And understanding what that block is and how you can help them overcome it is part of being that leader. And the Born to Dominate gives you that. And it gives you, I don't want to say confidence, but it gives you the ability to stop for a moment and go, there's something else going on here that I'm not understanding, rather than they're not engaged, they don't care, so they shouldn't be here. And I think sometimes people are too quick to judge that, to take it to another level. And I think taking it to the next level helps you, because I mean, it may be they're not the right fit, and that's okay. But you've at least made the effort, and you can say, I've done everything I could do to try to help them and make this work, rather than you're done. And I think Born to Dominate really pushes you to create a culture in your team that will foster trust and faith and build something almost magical when you really lean into it.
I love everything that you said. I I encourage all of y'all, don't hesitate to use the word confidence around me, because I love to call myself the confidence coach, but I say that from a very different place, because I tell people who've worked with me, no one ever had less confidence in themselves than me. And there's the kindergarten level of confidence is like, you can do it, Jimmy. And the difference is in what I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're talking about a different level of internal certainty, a different level of internal certainty in God's faithfulness to lead you. Because as a leader, the most challenging thing is, what do I do? And a lot of people, myself included, we sometimes fall trapped to doing everything on our industry just because that's what everybody else is doing in our industry. And we fall trapped to, like David originally did, of putting on Saul's armor of accomplishing our goals and fighting our challenges the way everybody else is, as opposed to stopping and co-creating with God and asking, what is right for me? What is right for business? What is right for my team right here, right now? And as a leader, trusting that internal certainty for God to lead you how to reach every single person in your team individually, overcome their own fears, their own worries, their own lack, their own limitation, own beliefs. Because as my friend Brady taught me, everybody is a byproduct of childhood reward and childhood punishment. And until you understand as a leader how people's childhood impacts how they show up in your business, you're not going to be able to get to the deep roots of action and inaction so that they can really grow and thrive within your company. And I'm just so grateful. I always tell people that God blesses you with clients wherever you are in your journey. And I'm very grateful that God blessed me with you to be one of the first people to go through Born to Dominate, because it was a tremendous blessing. Is there anything else that you want to add that I didn't talk about or didn't mention that is on your heart to share with people about Born to Dominate?
Well, Born to Dominate is truly, it's about you, but it's not necessarily for you, if that makes sense. It's about you being for your team. So it is you doing some of the work, you doing some of the understanding, but then it's you living that out for the team that you either have or you want, so that you can create that core that falls in line with your beliefs. And I think Born to Dominate for me really helped me step into a leadership role. There were some changes through the agency over the last year that has happened. So I've had to take on a role that was not necessarily the role I originally had. And going through Born to Dominate at the time to figure out how to create the culture, how to make some adjustments, how to make sure the core values were expressed and understood, and the mission statement was available. Like having all of that and having Born to Dominate to go back to and rely on, and having those calls and having the one-on-ones to say, this is where I am right now. And to also have you, because I kept, for much of this year, I have said, well, I've got to do this and I've got to make these changes and I've got to do those. So it was almost like I put everything on hold until I could get these things done based on, the things that had happened. And, in one of our last calls, we were like, okay, are we ready? Because that's where God is right now, is, are you ready? Are you ready to start receiving? Because we've been on hold for all of this time. And so having you to remind me that I've kind of been in the driver's seat saying, not yet, not yet, not yet, has helped, with Born to Dominate, to say, okay, you've done all the things. It's time for you to let go. It's time for you to say, okay, I'm ready. Whatever's going to come, I'm open and willing to take. I have grace. If something's not perfect, it's just not perfect, and it's okay. And just having that reminder that as a leader, you are human, and It's okay for you to be vulnerable. It's okay for you to make mistakes, because then your team has the comfort and security of knowing they can do and be the same. And so it's been huge, just to be able to do that and say, yeah, I screwed up. So I'm fixing it. This is what's happened. And then they go, oh, okay. Well, thanks for letting us know so we don't do it. That kind of thing.
Right.
So then they're like, okay, well, good. She screwed up. So if I screw up, it shouldn't be a big deal either.
Right.
And I, just creating and fostering that information and that energy has been huge, has absolutely been huge. And going into Born to Dominate, to where I could take some of what I learned about focusing on me and turn it into focusing on the leadership role and the team and putting together what I wanted and how I wanted to grow. That was big, and that was very, very helpful. So I think that anyone who's looking to make those changes or adjustments definitely should consider moving into Born to Dominate and continuing the growth trajectory, because you're still there. You're still saying, okay, but why are we talking about this again? I thought we already let it go. Or have you been doing this? And if you have not, why? So that you still have that that little, I don't want to say, somebody on your shoulder, but you still have that push of, it's okay. You're still safe. This is still the next move. This is still what you need to be doing. And encouragement of, yes, okay, do it. What are you waiting on? That's huge. It's been huge, especially when you've stepped into that, okay, I'm the leader now. I'm the face of everything. What's next?
I love that. And I want to, close this out with 3 pieces of encouragement for you, Tiffy, and also for everybody that's watching this, of why this is such a special container for me. Number 1, the hardest thing about being a leader is you're worried you're going to fail your team. You're worried that you're going to mislead them. You're going to misdirect them. You're not going to know enough. You're not going to have the answers to solutions. You're not going to be abundant enough to pay them. There's just so many fears in leadership. And my prayer for all of you all is that you find your adequacy in God and not yourself. And there's a Bible verse that says exactly that. And it's been, a life raft for me and a lot of my own growth, and still is a life raft for me, that my adequacy comes from God, and that I don't have to have every answer, every solution. I don't have to know everything, because He does. And as long as I rest in His love and His peace, He's going to guide me, take care of me, and also take care of my team. It's not my responsibility to save anybody. It's not my responsibility to save my team. My responsibility is to abide in God's love and to trust Him to lead me and guide me and to take care of my team. That's my first thing. My second piece of encouragement for all of you all is, remember that your team exists to bless you. And God uses your team to bless you. And oftentimes our insecurities prevent God from using our team to bless us, because how does God bless us? He blesses us by strengthening our weaknesses. And I think what's ironic about my clients and also about my team is that oftentimes their strengths are opposite of my weaknesses. And as a leader, it's very easy to be like, oh my gosh, I can't have this person bless me in this way. Like, they're going to leave me. They're going to take over my agency. You're going to do something crazy because this is their strength and I'm weak here. And that's actually the number one reason why people lose incredible people, is they're afraid to let their team step into their strengths to bless them because of their insecurity. And so when you realize that God takes your weakness and that's where His grace superabounds, realize that He does that with your team too. And that's my second thing. And my third thing goes back to what you said, is oftentimes we feel like we're waiting on God to bless us. And the truth is, God's waiting us to say, okay, do you feel safe to receive from me now? Are you ready to receive grace? Are you ready to receive the love? And fear of success is really, I think, a bigger fear than fear of failure, And there's 2 pieces that I will continually preach until the cows come home. Old Texas saying, until the cows come home, which is, number 1, grace means that when you do make a mistake, God blesses it anyway. Like, good things happen anyway. Even when you make a mistake, there's no punishment, there is no condemnation. Really good things are going to happen anyway. That's the first one. And the second one is you are safe to receive, because the blessings of God come with no sorrow. And the illustration that never leaves my mind, and I've been listening to a lot of Joseph Prince, and for those of you who are my masterminds, you know this, because he is very much a grace-fueled preacher and very biblically sound. And I don't know very much at all about the Bible, but I'm learning more every day, because I wanted scripture anchors to back my faith in science and business. That's my prayer every single day. But it's about the lame man who was paralyzed, and it was the sea that had the angel of the Lord that would come by, I think, once a month and stir up the waters, and whoever was first would be able to enter it. But Jesus actually asked him, he said, do you actually want to be healed? And it's so interesting that he asked that question, because then it asks you, like, do you really want to be wealthy? Do you really want to have a successful team? Do you really want to have a thriving business? Do you really want to have what you're asking for? Because I feel like a lot of us say we want it, but in our hearts, we don't feel safe to receive it. And I feel like that's a really, really important piece. And ironically, when you realize that your adequacy comes from God and that your team exists to bless you, and you let go of this fear of people, I feel like that's one of the biggest things that still I have more work to do. I think all of us have work to do, which is this fear of people, fear of what your team thinks, fear of what others think, fear of what people think online. And the more you realize that you should focus on God's love for you, and that he protects you and surrounds you with that, and the less you fear the people, the more you can stand tall, and you just go further. Because I just feel like the fear of people is just big. Fear of letting people go, fear of hiring the wrong people, fear of what vendors think, other industry people think. And, one thing I love about Born to Dominate that we didn't really mention, but we don't really need to mention except for this, which is I want you all to feel safe and empowered to go right when everybody else is going left. My business manager and I have a disagreement on Epcot on where you go left or right first. I'm very much a left. You go to Mexico, I think she's a right, and go to England, France area, but I'm a left. I'm a Mexico guy. And so we need to have belief and faith in God enough that when he's leading us to go off-roading from the industry, that we trust that. It's like the Bible says, I will create a roadway in the wilderness, and I will create a river in the desert. We need to have that kind of a faith if we really want to be leaders in our industry and for our team. So
I agree. And I think sometimes, people need to realize what you think you have planned for how it's going to go is not God's plan. And you have to be open to whatever change comes along, as I've learned, because sometimes it's better, even if it's a hard process in the beginning.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I no notes on that one. No notes on that one. Absolutely. Well, Tiffy Boo, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for sharing. Thank you again for being a display of God's grace in this container that I'm very passionate about. I'm very excited to open my heart to receive more grace as I learn more about that, so I can continue to encourage more people like you. And the thing that makes me most excited is that the seeds that you and I together have planted over the last, over a year, really almost 2 years, we're just now starting to see some of those fruits, and they're going to grow in an incredible way. And I'm just so grateful to you. So thank you for your time today and for sharing with everybody else. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And I hope everybody understands that this is truly life-changing if they will commit to it and move forward and really be honest and willing. It's worth it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Boo. Have a beautiful day.